3rd and 4. Green looking to throw. Green flushed out of the pocket to the left side. Green stops, throws the ball downfield. It's complete. McAllister with the catch out to the 48-yard line. He'll move the ball on a first down. In the pistol, Hennigan in front of Watson. Memphis needs just one. Hennigan, Watson, strung out to the right side, tackled in the backfield. Shea Oladipo on 4th down, comes up huge, and Boise State denies Memphis with a 4th down stop and takes the football. Heavy package is in again. Green, give it off Genty, bouncing outside to the left. He'll stiff arm the man and score. Second touchdown of the game for Ashton Genty. It's his 10th of the season, and Boise State extends the lead to 16-0.
Well, what do we have to talk about today? No lack of topics as the Boise State football team enters the month of October 2-3 for the second time in 3 seasons. Welcome on into Jay Sports Bar. Jay Tust alongside Shane Williams-Rhodes. The Broncos, yet another loss in kind of devastating fashion. When you get up 17-0 in any game, I don't care if it's played on the moon, you probably expect to be able to finish that thing out. In this case, the Broncos blow a 17-point lead and ultimately lose 35-32 against a fairly talented Memphis team, but you can't help but feel like you have a bad taste in your mouth following the 5th game of the season here, Shane.
Yeah, I feel really bad because I think I made this prediction, and I think I was pretty darn close. I think I'd say 34-31, but we're in a very unstable state right now in the state of Idaho.
Yeah, this program is used to winning. I mean, we have so much to get to on Jay Sports Bar today. We're going to talk about the quarterback controversy. Yes, I feel like it's okay to call it a controversy because it's not stable at this point in time. How Andy Avalos is doing in his 3rd year at Boise State, where the program currently stands, the expectations of the future. We'll address the defense, which has been one of the worst in all of college football so far this season. But we begin with the talk about the quarterbacks because I know that, when it comes to the defense, that it definitely ranks worse than where the offense ranks at this point. But the quarterback is the most crucial position on a team, and not having stability there, I feel like it's very easy for that to feel like the entire program doesn't have stability. And at this moment, that's kind of where I feel like we're at, Shane.
I mean, we've had to deal with this last year. It sucks. And before, I think these last 2 years, I honestly don't feel like we ever had a quarterback controversy around here. It was, this is the guy, this is who we're going with. And even when guys started playing a little rough, they weren't necessarily being called out to be benched. In 2014, you go 2-2, and there was definitely some upset people around.
Right.
But they weren't necessarily calling for people's heads.
Right. And this is a little bit of a different situation, Shane. And, I don't want to spark chaos or just have unrational opinions or anything like that. I think that we can have, a conversation that's pretty justified by statistics and what's gone on. There are certain areas where you can debate about and offer opinions, but I also think there's a very logical way of looking at all of this where there's not a lot of gray area at times. When you look at the quarterback position, right, there were sky-high expectations about Taylen Green this year. And in some cases, if you look at some of his numbers compared to last year, there's not a ton of difference in some of these areas. But I think whatever Taylen did last year, it was, man, look at this guy, right? And this year, it's kind of looking like what he can't do versus what he can do last year when everybody was just so excited about him. And now you start to see limitations because, again, the expectations were so sky high. I mean, everybody thought that he'd be a guy that would contend for Mountain West Offensive Player of the Year, and he couldn't be further from that right now. And that's not a matter of opinion, Shane. That is a matter of if you look at his 115 quarterback efficiency rating, he ranks 11th out of 12 qualified Mountain West quarterbacks. That's not going to get it done.
No, it's not. And it just, right now, it looks like the offseason was not spent, basically improving and perfecting the craft. And it doesn't look like the experience, because I think we're getting close to Taylen now being a guy who started for almost a full year now.
He took over on offense 1 year ago.
And so now it's starting to look like he's not progressing. It's more like it's a lot of regression going. And I get that. You got new play callers. You got, it's different stuff going on. We're running different plays. We're running a totally different offense. I mean, technically, if we want to really look at this is Taylen's third offense coordinator in a year.
Yep.
So there's a lot being thrown at him. But you can say that, but then on the flip side, you pointed this out, when we were just chatting, that we can't complete a slant. And I don't care what kind of scheme you're in, a slant is a slant.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of things that have to be looked at when you kind of try to process this, but we are not in a good state. That's the only thing I can keep going back to is just it's a struggle right now.
I just feel like we have to address the concern before we get back to the positive. And I do think that there is a massive positive when it comes to Taylen Green. We are going to get there. But when we talk about, maybe his growth as a quarterback, and I know that there is a lot that goes into this, but it also goes back to things that Chris Peterson said, over a decade ago when I started working this beat. The quarterback gets too much blame when it's going bad, but too much credit when it's going good. Right now it's going bad, so even if it's too much blame, it just sadly falls on the quarterback's shoulders. And I think that, we so often talk about his downfield throws, right? And as I kind of watch him over these last couple of weeks, I actually do feel like a downfield throw to Eric McAllister is a throw that he's actually comfortable making, right? A lot of his success happens outside of the numbers, though. So that might be him pulling it, running out of the pocket, things like that. If you want to hone in on the middle of the field, meaning throws between the numbers, beyond the line of scrimmage, if you look at what he's doing in that department this year, he is 16 of 41. That is a 39% completion percentage. He's thrown for 295 yards on those throws, a 7.2 point yards per attempt average, which not terrible, probably just a little bit low. 0 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. Shane, as a guy that is one of the best pass catchers in Boise State history, what does that suggest in your mind?
Obviously in between those hashes, there's more people, or in between those numbers, there's a lot more people
Yep.
there than it is outside. So it can be a number of things. One, just being able to identify coverages. Obviously not understanding that backers are flowing and getting to the hook and those different things, and understanding windows and where to put the ball. Though that could be a problem, but then there's the flip side of, obviously, when he's throwing outside the numbers, it's typically man coverage. It's him throwing to his favorite receiver. It's a lot of these things that go into it.
How about, I feel like when you also roll out and you run the boots or the nakeds or whatever like that, all of a sudden now you're making eye contact with the guy that you're probably throwing the ball to. That also means the entire defense is flowing with you as well. For some reason, that's a comfort that appears to be a more comfortable throw for Taylen right now.
Yeah, and then typically when you're flowing that way, and let's say it's a broken down play and it's now a scramble drill, defenses are not in their correct spots. At this point, it's just everybody cover the closest man to you. So it's basically backyard football at that point.
So now all of a sudden the timing in which the offensive coordinator is asking you to operate on, it is out the window.
Yep. And so now you don't have to necessarily even think about throwing the ball in the middle of the field, because you can work to a sideline. You can watch the flow come to you. Guys typically it's way easier to get open.
So now you're talking about operating within the framework of the offense versus outside of the framework of the offense, and it seems like that's kind of where the latter is where it's more leaned. I was curious, Bush Hamden's take on it this week. So I asked him about the whole outside the numbers versus inside the numbers development for Taylen Green and the difference between him and even Maddox Madsen.
It's a great question. I think, as you guys know, the ability to manage the pocket, the ability to play inside the pocket probably allows you to hit more inside throws, if that makes sense. And I think, again, whether right or wrong, we certainly with TG have been looking for more one-on-one matchups on the outside, create max protection, if you will, to just create easy throws out there. And so it's just interesting, because we again, they're complementary players. TG's been able to make a lot of those one-on-one throws on the outside. Maddox's probably worst rep of the game was a max protection outside throw, and he kind of said it. But there's no escaping it, right? At the quarterback position, the ability to be in short, confined space, be accurate, allows you to make some of those throws inside.
And not to like completely, bash the kid, but there is visual evidence of this happening. And the first, I think it was the third play of the game this last week. They run a slant with Shea Whiting, and it would have been an easy first down had he just put it on Shea, throws it behind him. Fourth down, you punt. We talked about this on the show last week. I can show the clip now because I was out on the road recording it last week, and it was just more difficult. But against San Diego State, it looks like Eric McAllister's going to come open on this slant for an easy touchdown. Steph Cobbs, Billy Bones do a great job. They push up, they clear it out for Eric, and Taylen just doesn't even pull the trigger on it. While it's concerning that he doesn't throw it, and this might sound like an excuse, maybe this is the excuse of why he doesn't throw it. If you throw it even a skosh late and a skosh off target, you're risking a turnover in the low red zone. Yep. When you consider, too, that you don't have anybody else over there, to protect it, you throw a pick, it might go 99 yards the other direction.
Yes.
So when we talk about Taylen protecting the ball between the numbers, he has done a better job of that since the UW game when he threw 2 interceptions. His only 2 interceptions came on throws that were between the numbers. So I don't know, like as you said moments ago, Shane, like there are more bodies in the middle of the field.
Yeah.
So if
bigger bodies too.
If you lack confidence of finding the windows or timing or things like that, your numbers are gonna substantially dwindle between the numbers.
For sure, and those throws are confidence throws. I mean,
right?
You have to be able sometimes to be able to throw a slant in the second window. So you have to allow the backer to clear, and then you get behind and throw behind it. But if you already don't have the confidence to throw that ball, you're going to sit on it and then take off.
Okay, so as I said earlier, there are ways that I don't want to live in the gray area on this. Like it might seem like an opinion when we say that Taylen is kind of lacking confidence at time. Although I do believe that's true, we could also just ask his quarterback's coach and offensive coordinator, who spends more time with Taylen than anybody, what he thinks about Taylen's confidence.
Probably just okay. Again, I think confidence at the quarterback position, it certainly starts with yourself. And there's times where you got to believe sometimes when the outside noise isn't there. And he's a guy that's done it at a high level. And I think that's probably the beautiful part about being a quarterback at this level of football is sometimes it's easy when things are going well, and when maybe things aren't, you find out who you are. And I think that guy's answered the bell over and over and over again. But as you know, it just takes a couple throws here, takes a couple big plays there, and you're kind of right back on track. So I think it's everything we've been training for from a mental standpoint, the acceptance of what this thing could look like, and we're excited about him and looking forward to watching him on Saturday.
It's okay. I mean, going into Game 6 of the season, I don't think in any part of your entire football facility you want it's okay.
Definitely not at the quarterback position. I mean, that's got to be the most secure.
It's got to be
person on the field.
And I think if you look at the history of Boise State, that is especially the case.
Yeah, that's eye-opening, I guess, for the fans.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't know how this week is going to go, and how they're going to sort that out.
Mm-hmm. Another area I'm going to answer that in just a second here, Shane. Another area that I just wanted to bring up, and I've kind of mentioned this on the show before too. So oftentimes when a quarterback has time, that's because that becomes the moment where he picks defenses apart. Mm-hmm. But that's when your quarterback efficiency rating goes through the roof. Usually.
Yep.
In this case, Taylen is a much better passer when he has under 2.5 seconds to throw. Because when he has over 2.5 seconds to throw, he's only completing 42.9% of his passes for 229 yards. That is a 4.7 yards per attempt average, which is, I'm sorry, but it's awful. I mean, that's low. 0 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. If you thought the yards per attempt was bad, his quarterback efficiency rating on those throws is 69.9. Like I said, we can make this subjective, or we can really bring up things that are probably a little bit of not even a little bit, that are a concern.
That when I hear what you just said, it takes me back to another scar that we are already having to reopen. I feel like it's the receivers deal. If you're a receiver and you get 4 seconds to run a route,
got to get
and
open.
we still don't have enough separation.
Yeah.
The quarterback feels comfortable enough to throw the ball, then we're not creating enough separation.
Yeah, I mean,
there's no way anybody should be able to guard anybody for 4 seconds when you know where you're going and he does not know where you're going.
Who's the guy that gets open on this offense when you have 4+ seconds? I mean, because back in the day, you were the smaller, shiftier guy. You know, that could have been a you. Khalil Shakir could get open against anybody in any amount of time. Didn't even matter. But who is?
But even when
who
you
is that
had
guy?
your Khalil Shakirs and your John Hightowers, you also had your A.J. Richardsons that go along with them. You also had your Sean Monsters, other guys who made big plays who could get open.
Yeah.
There is, outside of McAllister, there is no one getting open. And if they do find a way to get open, there's no one who's going to, make the contested catches.
Right.
Like, there were a few catches where it's like, okay, we got both of our hands on the ball, and the DB was able just to basically punch through our hands, and we just dropped it.
Yeah. That's a team thing right there, I guess. That's a whole offense thing that they've got to get figured out. And I want to show you a juxtaposition, too, because this is the part of the Taylen Green that you're like, well, there's a lot of meat on the bone here, man. Like, there is a lot to be excited about. Last year on those similar throws, he completed about 50% of his passes, 7 touchdowns, 5 picks on throws of 2.5 seconds or more. So he's not necessarily world-beating numbers, but, I mean, you can live with those.
Yeah.
When it goes back to, throwing between the numbers, in the middle of the field beyond the line of scrimmage, last year he completed 60.7% of his passes. The comparison, 39% this year. Last year, 60.7. Yards per attempt, 9.5. Touchdowns, 7. Interceptions, 5. Maybe still a little too many in the pick department last year, but overall just off the charts better than he is this year. Another thing that Taylen Green does that nobody else can do were the gifts that God just said, hey, man, this is how we're going to make you. And it's being 6'6", and when you're on the field, you're going to be the fastest human on the field. Somebody messaged me on Twitter this week saying that Taylen looks slower. Taylen might look slow because his legs are so long, he eats up like 10 yards in one stride, and that's like almost not even an exaggeration, Shane. He took off one play up the middle against Memphis, and he nearly broke it. But, like, he made the decision to go, and in like 4 strides, he was 20 yards downfield.
Yeah, I know people don't really understand, like, speed looks different on different guys.
It does.
You
look quick, man.
Yeah, so like me and Taylen running next to each other, I might take 5 steps, and those 5 steps are really quick.
Yeah. But
Taylen could take 2, and they look really slow. But if we're covering the same amount of ground in the same amount of time, then we're running the same speed.
Yep.
So it's all about, I tell the kids all the time, speed is stride length times stride frequency. Mm-hmm. So if this guy has the length, then the frequency can be lower because he's covering more with the stride length.
I got short legs too, man. So the frequency had to be moving for me back in the day. But, so those are just the things that, like, they're going to earn Taylen every opportunity. Just to be clear on this, we're going to shift into Maddox Madsen here in a second here. But just to be clear on this, like, I believe in Taylen Green. Like, I still do. I think he should be their starting quarterback. But if he can't do some of these things that the offense is required of him to do, then they've got to figure out a way to play to his strengths more. I'm not an offensive coordinator. I'm not a former college quarterback. I don't pretend to know what I don't know. It feels like after talking with other people that do know more about the game than I do, mixing in some more RPO would perfectly suit maybe some of the good parts of his skill set, as well as, safeguard the deficiencies of it, I suppose.
I agree, because I also feel like people have been calling for the Taylen Green runs, and this week we got those. Mm-hmm. He did it often, and when he was pulling the ball and there were design runs, he was getting 8 yards a pop.
Yeah.
So I think the offense is going in the right direction as far as play calling. We're getting closer to where we should be. Ashton still had 23 carries, which I think that's a pretty good number for him.
Oh, yeah.
It's not too many, and it's not, too little. That's a pretty good number. And then especially when you're going to get him another 5 catches for about 50 yards, he'll make unbelievable plays like he did in the past game. I mean, that's the one bright spot that every week, no matter what, that guy's going to make a crazy play.
I want to talk about Ashton Genty. I do, and it's crazy that we've made it through the post-game press conference and the Monday press conference, and we're getting to like the final questions, and I'm like, we haven't even talked about the kid that scored 4 touchdowns in the game, and so it's like that quick little last hitter. We're going to get that to you in just a minute. But staying with the quarterbacks for now. So Taylen's numbers coming out of the Memphis game, 12 of 24. 50% completion percentage, not good enough. 200 yards on 24 attempts, I'll take that. I do think it's important, no turnovers. This is a offense that cannot lose the turnover battle because the defense won't stand a chance if the offense loses the turnover battle. But when you compare Taylen's numbers to what Maddox Madsen did in much more limited time and limited drives, Maddox was 11 of 14. 175 yards, 2 touchdowns. I mean, he really did kind of answer the call of what Boise State needed. Were all of his throws perfect? Probably not. But I think that he made decent decisions, though, still of where he wanted to go with the football. And he did what the offense needed him to do, and that was come on and move the ball in a hurry down the field, and he effectively did that, Shane.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that I'm calling for Maddox Madsen. I'll tell you that right now.
Mm-hmm.
But what I will say is, in the pocket, he has more confidence than Taylen.
He does, and I think it took me, Shane, and like when we talk about Taylen struggling to throw kind of over the middle of the numbers, or between the numbers, and that's such a big part of the field. It's a crucial part of the field. But for me, like when I saw Maddox come in and he hits on a couple of these posts, or even like the checkdowns and stuff where he clearly saw people dropping out. Mm-hmm. Like he just made decisions quick. He had anticipation on some of his throws. He threw to space more than he threw to people, I felt like.
And for him, he came into the game in a time where you're down 14, 17 points.
Couldn't have been comfortable, I can tell you that.
The good thing with that is that they're basically telling you can make the throw it no matter what. We can't risk, not throwing the ball and taking a sack. So it's just like, just get the ball out of your hands. Like, everything was kind of simplified for him.
Yeah.
So it was a good time for him to come in and kind of do that. Obviously, opening up a game and starting in a game where it's 0-0 and you're not in that kind of situation is quite a bit harder.
Why is that hard? Why is that harder?
So if it's 0-0, we're just starting the game. I'm going to be sending pressure at you. I'm going to be doing different things, trying to figure out what's working, what doesn't work. And obviously, when he came in, as you can see, they had been just dropping guys and making Taylen make a decision, and Taylen was not wanting to make those decisions.
Right.
So they just stuck with it, and so he comes in, and now he's just, like you said, he's throwing the checkdowns, which we hadn't did all game.
Yep.
So now things are just wide open. No one's covering the guy doing a swing route. No one's covering the flats and these kind of things.
If the worst thing you can do on a play is get the ball in Ashton Genty's hand, it quickly turns into the best thing you can do on a play.
Why not throw the swing route to Ashton Genty and let him take it 30 yards for you?
Which, I mean, you saw Mad Dog's first touchdown pass, and that's kind of what happened. Everybody dropped out, jumped it off to Ashton. Ashton was, again, the best in college football after the catch and took it into the end zone. But that, again, it just shows you what you can happen, man. Just get it into your playmakers' hands and let them go. Maddox Madsen this season, 22 of 32. He's completing 68.8% of his passes. That's, Bush Hamden said, that's about 4% above where they actually would like to see their quarterback see. So he's exceeded expectations in those regards. On those 32 attempts, he's thrown for 319 yards. That's about 10 yards per attempt. 4 touchdowns, 0 picks. His quarterback efficiency rating, 193.7. Now we're talking about something that's like off the charts, right?
For sure.
He has as many touchdown passes this season as Taylen Green does.
Yep. And which we know the thing that separates Taylen is his ability to run.
Yep.
So how many rushing are we looking at?
So that there's a substantial difference in that department between the two. On top of that, too, I think, I asked, we'll hear from him, I guess. I asked Ashton Genty what Taylen Green brings to the run game, not only with as it pertains to Taylen picking up yards, but as it applies to helping Ashton and the rest of the running backs pick up yards. Take a listen.
If you watch really the Memphis defense, they were keyed in on me. So having a guy who can pull the ball and run and make plays for us, it just helps a lot to take some of the pressure off me. Defenses, they got to pick their poison. Who do they want to stop? I mean, because either way, somebody's going to make plays. You focus more on me, Taylen's going to make more plays. You focus more on Taylen, then I'm going to make more plays.
So why does that matter so much? Well, I think we can say the bread and butter of this, not just offense, but entire team right now is their ability to run the football.
Yes.
And Taylen's presence absolutely impacts that ability. We've heard all season about how defensive ends are playing wider so that Taylen doesn't beat them on the edges. Well, that softens the box and allows people to run between the tackles more. All of a sudden against Memphis, you see everybody now keying in on Ashton because they're like, okay, we're taking away 2 at all costs. And now that allows Taylen to get outside and pick up those 6, 7, 8-yard gains as he's running out of bounds because, again, nobody is going to beat him at that angle.
Yeah, that's where the quarterback situation that's why you can't necessarily just say, okay, we're going to go with, Matson, because if you do that, now your run game is no longer the run game you've had all year.
Right.
You're not averaging 4 or 5 yards a carry.
And if you take away the run game right now,
we're done.
You said it.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like that's the case. And that's why this is such a big decision. And that's why it feels like Andy Avalos used the word mixture following the game. He was non-committal on who was going to be his quarterback, but he did use the word mixture. It feels like there might have to be a mixture moving forward while they figure out how to really approach this successfully. I still think Taylen Green is the guy, though. And we talked about maybe a lack of separation for wide receivers. Now, there are certain instances where the ball's not coming out on time, and I don't know if I necessarily blame the wide receivers for a lack of separation. When you're scrambling around and you have 4 seconds to get open, that becomes your problem, that the receivers have to find a way to get open.
Yep.
But when it comes to Maddox, you just noticed the ball was coming out on time within the rhythm of the offense. And as a wide receiver, if you can catch the ball – if you look up and the ball is in the air, that means you probably have a shot at catching the ball in space. If that's something moving towards the middle of the field, a slant, a post, anything like that, which means that you're likely going to be going against the grain of the defense. Because now, like I said, when you hold on the ball and you roll out and everybody's flowing one way together, it's hard to get separation. If the ball comes out on time, you catch it in space, you have a chance to make a move before that defense can really react to you.
Yeah, it's true. Things are just not making sense right now.
But they also make perfect sense. You know what I mean? Like nothing makes sense, but at the same time, it makes perfect sense of kind of what is and what isn't going on.
Yeah, I can see that side of it.
Yeah,
it's the receivers right now. I don't understand why the struggle is the way it is.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like they've had the mentors from guys coming in and they played with Khalil. They saw what Khalil did.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't really get why we are where we are with the receiver room.
So what's the answer?
That's a good question.
Recruit a 5'7" quick wide receiver out of Texas?
That might not be the answer. The answer, because we've never had to answer this question, I guess we're really uneased about it. I'm uneased about this one.
I just thought of this, Shane, and maybe the answer was taken away against the University of Washington. Going into the season, they were using they were using Ashton as a motion guy that would line up in the slot a lot, and they were moving him all around, and they touted how effective he was going to be as a receiver, and he has been effective as a wide receiver. But maybe he was supposed to be that guy that, could run a couple of those little inside routes and get open, or I don't know. And George Halani was supposed to be more that traditional running back, and Ashton's had to serve as the traditional running back with George Halani out. So there have been some things, I guess, that they spent all fall planning for, and they really did. And now they've had to find, scramble to find answers, and there's just more question marks than periods or exclamation marks, I guess, on what you want to see happen.
Yeah, I can see that for sure, especially having, a 6-year senior with George and then losing him. I know that took a huge chunk of the playbook out.
Yeah, the good news is I think it's going to be too long before he gets back. I think it's a matter of, do you want to try to play him at like a Colorado State, or do you hold him out Colorado State because then he gets the bye and, that whole extra week of recovery. It'll be interesting to see how they kind of approach that. I will say this, they're getting to the point in the season where at 2-3, you're running out of options of whether you can save playing your best players. I get you want to protect guys, and that's obviously should be priority number one. But sometimes you can have the luxury of we'll wait. I don't know if the luxury is there if a guy is ready to play anymore, even if it means getting him that extra week going into the bye. We'll have to see. So now is how will this play out? We asked Andy Avalos about that. And again, non-committal on who his starting quarterback could be or will be, but he did kind of explain how they would lay it out in practice earlier this week.
On a typical week, as we all know, the first team quarterback gets the majority of the reps, somewhere along the lines of 80 to 20. We're going to push into that just a little bit to give ourselves a great idea of the mix of which we can, because we got two guys that are capable. It's nothing against TG. There are some things that TG needs to do a better job of. We've discussed those, and he's very well capable of doing those things, and we fully support him on those things. There's nobody in this building wants TG to be more successful, than the coaching staff, his teammates, and as well as if Mad Dog gets his opportunity to get in there. That's the awesome part about it. In terms of the game plan and what plays certain people, it's going to be consistent. There might be a few that are specific, but otherwise we want to see the efficiency out of both guys, and obviously we'll proceed from there on.
So typically between your starting quarterback and your backup quarterback, it's about an 80-20 split with reps, right? And I'm, it probably means running with the ones and doing things like that. I think the thing that concerns me about that when we talk about where you want to see Taylen grow, I don't think a lack of reps is a good option right now. For one thing,
It's not what's needed.
no. If anything, you want to see more of that look, having him test his anticipation and things like that. But there is only so much time in the day, and you got to put your team in the right position to win a game. So I was thinking about this on the way to work today, Shane. I wanted to ask you about this, but I don't think you were ever in a situation like this. So what goes through the mind of the rest of the team or the player itself when all of a sudden you should be in there for a rep, or you usually were, and the coach says, all right, wide receiver 2, QB 2, whatever, you take this rep.
I've seen quite a bit of that happen.
Okay.
Especially with the receiver room.
Okay.
I've watched, Chaz Anderson go from playing DB one week to being the starting receiver the next week. So It's happened. It can kill confidence, especially at the receiver position, because, we're typically a bit more prima donnas than other positions.
Hey, at least you admit it.
So the quarterback position makes it very tough. I think that's the one position where it's worse at that position than being at receiver, because there's only one quarterback on the field.
Right.
Playing receiver is typically 3 or 4 of you out there. So your shot at being on the field is a lot. You have a better chance of being on the field. So being the one guy who has to come off because you're supposed to be like the leader and all this, that can kill confidence. And right now where Taylen's confidence is, to me, in the pocket, I don't think that's probably what's best for him. But I also get the flip side of, if someone's playing out of their mind and they're doing what they're supposed to do and they're being a good teammate, and when they're getting their shot, they're going out there and getting the job done, then you got to give that guy more reps.
Yep.
So it's a catch-22 with that one. But it's tough because you watched the game last week and they started doing the switch, and I was just so confused because we were seeing quarterback switch every drive, and I believe Taylen scored on 3 of his first 4 drives.
They were really successful out of the gate, Shane.
He scored.
And I will say this. So another thing that we have to clarify as well, Maddox Madsen came in on the 3rd or 4th drive. I think it was the 3rd drive of the game. And that was 100% planned. They wanted to give Maddox a drive. The whole thing that happened in the 4th quarter where Maddox came in, that was not planned. That was an in-game adjustment that they felt like they had to make, meaning they benched Taylen Green in the 4th quarter and went with Maddox Madsen when the game was on the line.
But when you're up 10-0 and your starter has scored back-to-back drives, I think with the flow of the game, we got to make some adjustments on our game. It's just like we come out with a script. We know the first 12 plays of the game, but, if what we were doing is working, why go off the script? But we're running with a quarterback, and you're doing this. We were successful, and we switch quarterbacks, and then we weren't successful, and then we go back, and then we score again with the starter, and then we still take them. We're doing the switcheroo, but I feel like that killed a little bit of the momentum. You're running I guess not a totally different offense, but you're running different plays to fit, obviously, Madsen when he's in and Taylen when he's in. But if you're rolling 17-0, I wasn't huge on the quarterback switch.
Yeah, at the timing of it did seem a little interesting.
0-0. You go 2 or 3 drives and 0-0 and your quarterback's, not getting it done. I get that. You're scoring, you're rolling.
Up on the road.
Yeah.
And the defense just defense just getting a big stop on 4th down. Shea Oladipo with a phenomenal tackle. Yeah. So I'm just going to ask you this before we move on, because this obviously has been a massive part of today's show. What do you do? What do you do, Shane? What's the answer?
I think this is where I think there's only one person in the whole state of Idaho that can really tell us, and it's Andy Avalos. And I'm glad I'm not Andy Avalos, because the guy, the old, what did Harson used to call the fans on Twitter?
I don't even remember. I don't think it was too complimentary. Some of the people that
they are not happy right now.
Yeah,
I've seen some calls for some jobs and all types of things, but it's tough, man. It's at the end of the day, I get you guys out there, but at the end of the day, the players got to play.
Yeah,
it comes down.
I do think there is something to that too, man. Like, the coaches can only do so much. If you're out of place on a run fit, and that did happen on a play this last weekend and the kid played pretty damn good like the rest of the game, Shane, but there's that razor's edge cliche that they always bring up, and you kind of roll your eyes on it because you're like, gosh, how many times can we hear that? But it does apply a lot, and it was like they were rolling pretty good, and one guy gets out of place on a fit because you think you might be in the wrong play or wrong spot or whatever, a little miscommunication, whatever it was, and Memphis houses they score on the play. Like it really, the line can be that fine at times. So when coaches do say, like, gosh, like there's 4 or 5 plays in a game, and it just seems like those are the ones that are always killing us. Well, you play really good teams at the college level, at this specific level, and if you make a mistake, you're going to pay. And even if it's only 5 to 6 times a game where you're out of place, 5 to 6 times a game can be 28 to 35 points. And more often than not this year, it has been for this defense. Let's get to the defense, because we got to talk about them too. You look at the numbers, and some of these are really hard to look at, Shane. Again, you might think that this is a subjective thing to say for some people listening to this, but I have the numbers to back it up. They've been one of the worst defenses in college football this season. Yards allowed per game, they are tied for 119th in the country.
How many teams?
132, I think. I can't remember now with a couple teams moving up to the FBS level, but 132, I believe. So tied for 119th in yards allowed per game. Yards allowed per play, 129th. So there are a couple that are worse than you in the country. I guarantee. That's not a recipe for success. They're giving up 6.8 yards per play on defense, Shane. You don't even need 2 plays to achieve a first down. Technically you do, but you get what I mean with the averages. It's going to be hard to get off the field when you're giving up 6.8 yards per play. Plays of 20 or more yards allowed, they're tied for 126th in the country. A lot of those came from Michael Penix Jr., but they've still given up way too many big plays in each and every other game. Sacks versus FBS teams. I remind you, they had 6 against North Dakota State, but they were an FCS school. When you look at just the FBS opponents they've played, they rank tied for 104th in college football, which when you compare it to the other stats doesn't seem so bad. Almost out of triple digits. And finally, first down pass conversions on 3rd and 10 or longer, tied for 104th in the country. They have had a tough time getting off the field on critical 3rd downs. They call them money downs this season. They had a chance to get a few stops on that last Memphis scoring drive. Unfortunately, they went 0 for 3 on getting off the field on 3rd down. Memphis goes down, and they basically put the game away with that last touchdown. Boise State counter with the touchdown out of that, but they needed an onside kick and basically a miracle to pull out the game since they scored that last touchdown. Those numbers are more than alarming. And the scary thing for me, Shane, is in this case, I don't know what the answer is. Ashton Genty can save the offense. Another step by Taylen Green can really help this offense. The offensive line has been outstanding over there. I just don't know what we look at this defense and say, okay, man, well, we're just going to try to play to this guy's strengths, and hopefully that helps everybody else out. There simply hasn't been like a really elite part for this defense that you can lean on right now.
As a whole, the defense to me is in the same predicament as the quarterback situation. It's just
that's one guy versus 11.
Right now we're uncertain on who's going to make a play,
yeah,
especially when you're missing guys. And I think the 3rd and 7, when we're down by 3, they're on the 25-yard line maybe. 3rd and 7, the last third down they had of the game. And I'm like, oh, yeah, we're going to get – they're going to run it because they want to run some clock here.
Yep.
They're going to run the ball. We're going to get a stop. They'll kick a field goal, make it or miss it, but, we're only down by 6.
Yep.
Or they miss it and we're down by 3. We go score. We win this game. To watch them run the ball on 3rd and 7 and get 14.
Yeah. Was that the one they go up the gut and a bunch of missed tackles?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
To watch that and if you just get that stop, you're off the field. Mm-hmm. I think I threw my remote, so it was rough to watch.
We'll file that expense report to the boise-state-football offices.
Yeah, it was rough, and that is kind of how our season's been. When it's time to make that play, I feel like everyone is expecting someone else to make the play, and so we're all just not. Someone needs to be the guy, but no one's stepping up and being the guy.
Yeah. I'm going to predict Rodney Robinson gets a pick this week. I don't know why I'm going to say that, but I just feel like he's been really close over the last couple of weeks. That being said, you're right, man. Like it just Shea Oladipo looked really good at times last week.
Agreed with that.
He had, I think there was one play that he would like to have back, but outside of that, Shea looked really good last week. It's just requiring a lot of patience right now, and this is college football. You get 12 Saturdays. You get 12 guaranteed Saturdays, which means patience is at a premium. It's tough to keep saying that, especially when you hit the 6-game mark of a season. And when it comes to this defense, it seems like at points in times in the past we could pick apart. Oh, this might be wrong. Oh, this might be wrong. Right now, it is a very broad issue. And so I asked Andy Avalos this week, what is something the Broncos can immediately get better in, or what is the one thing they need to focus on, and that he feels it will snowball from there? Take a listen.
We can fix those things. That starts with us and making sure that we fully understand, that our players fully understand what we are doing and when we are doing it, and then the communication on the field, how we set that. The second thing is always about our eye control and how our eyes put us in position, put our feet, put our body in position to execute and win our one-on-one with the fundamentals and techniques. And this game can become very, very complicated. You can run whatever schemes you want on defense. The bottom line is it comes back to those. We say it all the time, the fundamentals and techniques make the scheme. And we do have the players that have the ability to execute the fundamentals and techniques. They've shown to do that. We as coaches got to create an environment where it's an expectation and a standard. And our players, again, we had a great meeting yesterday. We had a great discussion, and we broke off in the position meeting rooms, and we had a great practice where that is going to be the priority as we move forward. This game can become very complicated. We can look for all these, what is the answer? What is the answer? It is very simple. Playing great defense starts with discipline and mentality. That's where it starts.
So, Shane, that's a message that it's not refreshing because we have heard that all season long. After the UW game, eye control. After UCF, a couple of big plays, eye control. It seems like I hate taking the critical route at everything, but what is the disconnect?
It's the old just do your job.
Yeah.
It's that simple.
So why is it so hard to do your job?
As bad as this sounds, as the average person outside looking in,
yeah,
when you often hear coaches saying just do your job, the problem is you have 11 guys on defense. All 11 of those guys were absolute superstars where they come from, right? And so wherever they played, whether it be California, Oregon, Texas, Florida, those guys were in a scheme where I can almost guarantee you they probably didn't always do their job in their scheme, but they always made the play because they were the guy.
Yeah, and they were athletically better than everyone else they were going against.
Take Rodney Robinson. We see what he's doing every week. He's always around and he's right there. I'm sure in high school he was flying around killing kids and just because he understands football, right?
Yeah.
So that's why we had off earlier in the season against Washington. We're like, oh, he's seen this before, right? So he's a guy, right? But at the college level, everybody on the field now
is a guy.
are D1 guys. So you can't not do your job. So it's hard. I mean, it's complicated, but it's simple. It's like just having an athlete who's so used to always making every play go to a team where now I just have to do my job because that's someone else's job to make that play. It's hard to reprogram sometimes. And
it's weird. It's weird to think do less.
Yeah, because you've been programmed in high school that I'm the guy, so I have to always make every play, or we're probably not gonna make the play. But now you get 11 guys who have the ability to make the play, but that's what is in everyone's head. I have to make the play, so everyone's playing out of position and they're trying to do too much and not do just their job. Now you got guys out of position.
Yeah.
And it's not just, I mean, it's at every level, honestly. You see it happen often. I mean, I watched, who was that playing? The Chiefs. I watched the Chiefs play, and they motioned a guy over from the right to the left all the way out, and the guy that motioned ran just the arrow route. Well, you see on the defense, every defender bumps except the last defender. He didn't bump. He stayed on his guy.
Easy route completion. It
goes for like 7 yards. He only needed 2. But it's just one of those things, if he just does his job, everyone else bumps over to the new person, but one person didn't do it, and that cost you that's first down.
Yeah.
And it's just tough. I mean, it comes from reps. I mean, and if they're doing it at that level, then obviously you're going to see a ton of that at this level.
Yeah. This is a great point, Shane, because on top of all this, I do think even at the college level, there are probably exceptions, the Leighton Vander Esch's of the world, the Scott Matlocks of the world, that are so good where they can probably play beyond what is being asked of them at times, but then they usually answer the call. Curtis Weaver, just a dominant force off the edge. But when it comes to the overall talent of this defense right now, too, it is the ultimate, you got to do your job. I almost liken this to like the 2012 defense, one of the best in school history, but you had Tommy Smith, awesome football player, wasn't ever a guy that was going to get drafted in the NFL. Solid as all hell, though, right? Mike Atkinson, same deal. The one absolute dude you had on that defense was Jamar Taylor. But again, he was like the ultimate role guy, always did his job, right? And that was such a defense that it lacked the NFL talent that the 2011 defense had with Tyrone Crawford and Billy Wynn and Shea McClellan, and the list goes on, and George Iloka, the list goes on. But that defense was so good, everybody did their job. They were all dialed.
It's funny you bring that team up because I got a good old quote for you. And I think I want to say this is Avalos, who might have been the one who said this.
I believe that would have been his first year at Boise State.
D-line, right?
Yeah, that would have been his first year back.
So it's definitely Avalos. So Armand, obviously, who you know, is a really good friend of mine.
Armand Nance.
Another guy. He played D-line, and he said they're sitting in meetings. And it's funny, the story just matches up to exactly what we're talking about. Yeah. DeMarcus Lawrence, obviously, who's now Tank, whoever you guys know him as. So he's supposed to go outside on a certain play, and he goes inside, and the whole meeting, Avalos has just been ripping these guys because they're not doing their job. And you got a guy like Tank. He goes inside when he's supposed to go outside, but he makes the play.
Yep.
And this is after they went through about 15 plays of him just killing them. And Armand says Avalos tells him, he's like, you are not doing what you're supposed to do. So if you do the wrong thing, you better make sure you make the play. And right now, where we are with our defense, we are not good enough to go the wrong way and make the play.
I forgot about Tank. I don't know how he could on that 2012 defense. That beautifully aligns with what's going on right now, too. But even Tank didn't start the season opener against Memphis or against Michigan State.
Tank was a guy that came in.
Yeah.
He was in a rotation. But it just goes back to what you're saying. So even those elite guys that we had, they were doing the same thing. We were having some of the same problems. But obviously Tank is a big difference in what we have right now.
He emerged. He came on and, he was an NFL draft pick. And right now, you look at everything they lost off of last year's defense. And we knew that there was going to be some problems going in. J.L. Skinner, Scott Matlock. It's other guys, too, like Jackson Cravens and Isaiah Banya that both transferred out. Devin Wright transferred out. Caleb Biggers was – I don't think the people appreciated how good he was at cornerback sometimes. He lasted to, the final day of the NFL camps with the Browns. He was clearly a big-time talent. Tyreek Jones, still with an NFL team on a practice squad. There was George Tarlis. I still don't think people realize how good George Tarlas was in the time that Boise State had them, because you could even see a lot of their pass rush numbers or pressures on quarterbacks really dipped, and it all correlated when George Tarlas was injured in that Air Force game. So there really were some guys off last year's team, and I think a couple years from now we're talking about Ty Benefield like that. I think Marco Notarini can really move. He's long, he's athletic, but it's just at a point right now where I wouldn't feel comfortable believing that anybody off this defense is going to be in the NFL next year.
Yeah, I'm not seeing that.
No, again, it might happen a couple years, but that just suggests that there are not enough dudes to make up for when they're not playing perfect and doing their 111th, and that just is what it is right now. So they've got to figure out a way to dial it all in. Spencer Danielson has never had more pressure on himself to dial it up perfectly than he does right now. I mean, he's got to do probably the best coaching job that he has ever done, given what he has right now. And all these guys, the coaches, they all love these players. They preach it to the heavens and back how much they like these guys. But I think we can just see the reality of it is that the numbers speak for themselves. Again, we can operate in the gray and just guess, or we can just back it up and say what needs to improve and what doesn't need to improve. And I feel like we've kind of done that here today, Shane. So now,
don't do it to me.
This will be one of the most interesting games we have seen on the Blue in a long, long time. Boise State is welcoming San Jose State to town, a program that the Broncos have typically dominated over history. But the Spartans have a good quarterback. They have a great head coach. And they have the playmakers at wideout that just make you uneasy enough to realize this could be a tough game. How do the Broncos respond from all this adversity that they have faced, not only this last week, but over the season, and move forward against the Spartans, Shane?
I mean, obviously, it's a statement game for us. At this point, we got to show some type of fight. And I'm not saying that we haven't shown some, because to lose by 3 to Memphis at Memphis, that's not a bad loss. I mean,
not a bad loss. Memphis, it's a bad loss when you consider, man, it should have been a win.
Correct. We played good enough to win. We didn't finish the game. That's the problem. Obviously, to me, I just feel like we didn't make the adjustments. I feel like they did. We went up 17, and then we didn't respond. But this is a statement game because, obviously, it's a conference game. We're not out of conference yet.
Everything that they say with, right now, Shane, after all these non-conference losses and the non-con record under Andy Avalos, it's not been good. Not anywhere near Boise State standards. I know it's been tough, but at Boise State, you expect to be tougher in games like that. But after all these non-conference losses, the thing they always say, our goal is still right in front of us. It's winning a Mountain West Conference championship.
Yeah.
And so now, again, hey, Bronco Nation might sell out the stadium still despite this 2-3 start. It's a big, big game.
I think I saw 35,000 already out.
Yep. And they're going to push a sellout, I think. I really do. What is your projection?
Don't do it, Timmy.
Prediction. Maybe a projection should be with quarterbacks, everything. However much you want to throw onto this.
Do I get to pick based off of who starts and what?
However much hot sauce you want to throw on this thing, Shane. What do you think happens on Saturday against San Jose State?
Oh, man. I think if Taylen starts, my prediction is offensively, we will score a ton of points. What did we score? 31 last week?
32 last week. They went for 2 at one point in time. So 35, 32
we'll
was
still
last
score in the 30s
Yep.
with Taylen, which should be enough to win a game with typical Boise State teams. With the defense we have, we might need to score 40 to win, though. So I think we still get there with that. If Madsen starts and has the whole game, I think you guys kind of get to see what I was referring to earlier with him having to play from 0 to 0 and not just in a passing situation.
Yep.
I think we score in the 20s with him. I think we score more points with Taylen because of what he brings to the table in the run game.
I kind of agree with you there, Shane. I think that I really do love what I've seen from Maddox Madsen at times this year. There's some little intuition that worries me a little bit that the run game might struggle a little bit more with him at QB. and that if they're forced to throw a lot more, that if he puts it in the air 30 times, he might turn it over 2 or 3 times. And if we've learned anything with this defense, this offense cannot lose the turnover battle. This defense is not good enough to overcome, being placed behind in the race, and they have to win the turnover battle. That's the one thing that concerns me. And when we go back to earlier, I can't remember if I mentioned this or not, but with Taylen throwing over the middle or his, his inefficiencies throwing over the middle, some of that stems from not turning the ball over too, which Taylen has not done in back-to-back games now, which, again, with this defense, that is pivotal if you want to have a chance to win a football game.
It's the field possession. We're just playing the field position game until we can bust one. So that's why I feel with him starting, we score more points.
I want to end this on a lighter note because, as I did in the post-game press conference and in the Monday press conference, a little Ashton Jeanty for you. Number 1 in the country still in total touchdowns, still in yards from scrimmage, probably in hurdles as well. Shane, as always, man, I appreciate you joining me on Jay's Sports Bar. We will be back again next week, hopefully talking about a win following the San Jose State game. This is Jay's Sports Bar, serving the Idaho sports community. We'll send you out with Ashton Jeanty talking about why he loves hurdling people.
The way I run as a ball carrier, people don't want to tackle me up high, especially in space. So, it's kind of a thing where I already know it's going to happen by the demeanor, by the way they're coming to tackle me. And, my legs are my biggest asset, so that's probably the easiest way to stop people from hitting me in my legs. Also, it looks cool, so, you can't go wrong with that.